Silent Hill, a survival horror adventure game released for the PlayStation in 1999 by Konami. When the game came out, a lot of people drew many comparisons between it and the Resident Evil games, as from the previews, the gameplay looked very similar. Despite this, upon release, the game did manage to stand on its own 2 feet as a great horror game. Like Resident Evil, the series has seen a decline in quality in recent years. Games started to become more and more poorly received as the game's sales went down. So here we are with the game that started what was once the greatest horror game franchise of all time. How does it hold up? Let's turn off the lights and find out.
As soon as the game boots up, you're treated to a CG intro. It looks a little dated, but it's not half bad considering. The opening theme's a fantastic piece of music that begins delivering a very eerie vibe and then transcends into a bittersweet, rugged guitar. You better enjoy this piece of music while it lasts, because the rest of the game's soundtrack is nothing like it. The title screen isn't really anything special, but I guess it's not bad as far as PS1 title screens go. Once you start a new game, you'll watch another CG cutscene of a dazed Harry waking up in a car wreck. He soon notices that his daughter, Cheryl, is not in the car with him. He quickly exits the vehicle in search of her. You're now in control of Harry. Straight to business, a rare quality these days. Controls are pretty similar to early Resident Evil games. Harry controls like a tank, using left and right on the D-pad to rotate his body, and pressing up or down to make him move forward and backward. You can also make Harry run by holding the square button. If you do it enough, he'll start panting as if he's out of breath. For a PS1 game, that's a really nice little detail. You can also make Harry sidestep and run sideways with the L1 and R1 buttons. Harry will also do a quick turnaround if you push both buttons together. It's very helpful for getting you out of a jam if you ever need it. The camera controls can be a little disorienting, on purpose though. You can pull the camera back behind Harry to look in a specific direction by holding down the L2 button. Instead of snapping behind him, it'll swing around in a very dizzying manner. The game's controls are definitely a little rough around the edges compared to modern standards, but it works well enough. It's just a matter of getting used to it. You'll chase after Cheryl to no avail, as she'll quickly disappear into the fog. It's not long before Harry realizes that there's something amiss in this town as he stumbles across what appears to be the bloodied carcass of a dog. Not to mention that it suddenly gets dark out of nowhere. You'll notice some of the game's skewered camera angles here in this alleyway, which does a pretty good job of making the player feel unsettled. This is probably also the reason why the game sports tank controls, as it makes walking around with all these crazy angles so much easier. Soon enough, you'll find yourself being attacked by zombie children. With no way to fight back, your natural instinct is to run. But there's nowhere to run. I've seen many people play this part for the first time, and the reaction is always the same. They have no clue what's supposed to happen at this point, so they always get scared and freak out. This game is such a well-designed introduction, so kudos to that. Harry wakes up in a cafe with a policewoman named Sybil. She too has noticed that there's something amiss in this town, so she decides to go call for backup, but not before giving Harry a gun in the case that something out there attacks him. It's right here where the series' famous radio comes into play. As you collect items around the cafe, you'll hear the radio start making noises, followed by a pterodactyl-like creature called an air screamer to smash through the window. After defeating the creature, Harry then understands the radio's potential and decides to bring it with him. The radio is possibly one of the most clever mechanics I've ever seen in a horror game. Whenever an enemy is nearby, the radio will sound, but due to the lack of visibility, you still won't be able to see the monster when it first goes off. This creates a sensation of anticipation and tension. You know it's there, and you start to anticipate its appearance out of the fog or the darkness. Anticipation is one of the greatest vessels of fear, so introducing a mechanic that makes anticipation a constant factor in the game was a stroke of genius. Combat with enemies can be initiated by holding down the R2 button. Doing so will make Harry ready his weapon. You can then press or hold the X button to make him fire or swing the weapon. If it's a firearm, Harry will automatically aim at whichever monster he is facing. The closer you are, the better chance you have of getting a hit. Combat with a melee weapon is much harder, as it's very difficult to hit an enemy without getting too close and taking a hit yourself. There are many different types of melee weapons: short, long, and special. Short melee weapons you can swing around in quick succession, but they don't have as good range and lack stunning power. Longer weapons can be swung by tapping the X button, or can be slammed down hard by holding the X button. Slamming the weapon down will take longer, but will deal more damage and stun the enemy, preventing it from attacking you. Melee combat can be particularly hard to pull off, but you can get good at it. It's a matter of learning the timing of the swing in order to avoid damage. Combat with the gun, however, is pretty much a guarantee to get you by without taking any damage. This creates a contrast. Being a horror game, ammunition is very limited, so you're going to want to conserve it as much as you possibly can. This enables an element of decision making, which is a crucial element in making a game scary. I often hear people try to explain that a game is scary because you're defenseless. Games like Slender, Amnesia, and Outlast. In these games, you're completely defenseless against the enemy, but because of this, there's no element of decision. The solution to every monster you see is run and hide. Do you really get scared when you're running from the truck in Sonic Adventure 2? Simply reskinning that same game mechanic shouldn't change the way you feel about the situation. This problem is also very evident in Silent Hill Shattered Memories. In that game, you're completely defenseless, you only have to run. But just because I'm running from something doesn't mean I'm scared. In Silent Hill, you have to make a split-second choice. Do I run from this thing? Do I risk taking it out with a melee weapon? Or do I shoot at it, depleting some of my ammunition? These split-second choices create a panic that's no longer existent in modern horror games. Silent Hill's game design fits its genre so damn well, it should have set the standard for horror game design. The game is divided into two parts, segments where you'll explore the town and segments where you'll explore a building. During the building segments, you'll find yourself searching each room for a series of key items to solve puzzles with. For example, in the school, you'll have to find a chemical to dissolve a concrete fist which is holding a medallion. You then take the medallion and use it to open the clock tower. Other puzzles will involve having to solve some sort of riddle. Another example coming from the school is a puzzle where you'll have to interpret a poem about birds as a song to play on the piano. This puzzle took me ages to solve the first time. The first line of the poem represents how the keys you have to use are the ones that don't make any noise when you hit them. The poem itself represents how far apart each key is that you have to hit, using black birds like crows to represent the black keys and white birds like doves to represent the white keys. It's all really cleverly thought up. The next level is the premiere of the series staple, Hospital, where you'll encounter not just zombie nurses, but doctors too. Who would have known? The zombie nurse didn't become a series staple until the sequel, so I'll talk about that when I get there. Navigating each level can be a bit of a pain because of the disorienting camera. Because of this, you'll probably find yourself looking at the map incredibly often. The hospital is where the game's sound design really shines. There's a number of rooms that'll play sound effects to scare you, despite nothing actually happening. The game's music is very different from the music in the game's intro. Yeah, that's the game's soundtrack. That's the music. It's a horrid mess of relentless noise, and it does a fantastic job of keeping you on edge. I'm really sick of hearing horror movies and games having this cliche escalating violin kind of music.
That kind of music is really, really stupid, and it's actually used a lot in the Dead Space games. Which is dumb.
This is how you do it. Don't worry about creating a rhythm or a song for that matter. Just try to create something to fill the atmosphere with terror, and this game's soundtrack does just that. Here you'll meet up with Kaufman, a gruff man who's also looking for a way out of Silent Hill.
Something's gone seriously wrong.
And Lisa, a nurse who's just as confused as Harry is. These two characters' backstories intertwine in a very interesting manner, which you uncover by reading various notes and articles you can find around the game. That's how story in games like this should be. Backstory told through collectibles, and main story told through cinematics. I am so tired of modern games like Amnesia trying to tell the entire story through bits of paper you find in drawers. And the worst part is that people like to praise those qualities as immersive storytelling. If I have to dig through desks and drawers to find the story, I'm probably gonna lose interest and stop caring pretty soon. The game sports a variety of bosses, which can be a little tough to fight with the tank controls. They're by no means bad, but they do sometimes feel a little bit unfitting. Beating a boss doesn't result in any item reward or story exposition, they're just kinda there. However, the final boss is very crucial to the story, so I can forgive the bosses being in the game just purely so the final boss isn't the only boss, because really, that would be pretty weird. The buildings you explore are definitely the highlight of the game. However, the first Silent Hill game doesn't really have a lot of them, and it's a shame. There's really only 3 main levels, with segments where you explore the town and many locations all in between. The worst areas in the game are definitely the sewers. I hate this place. It always amounts to aimlessly running down a long hall while being bombarded by these annoying green monsters. It really feels like padding, if anything, especially since you have to go through a second set of sewers later in the game. The final level is a place called Nowhere, which is made up out of various rooms from previous buildings you've explored. There's no map to this area, but to compensate, it's very easy to navigate with all the landmarks on the doors. Throughout the game, Harry gradually discovers just why his daughter went missing in Silent Hill. It turns out that a crazy woman named Dahlia wants to summon God by sacrificing her own daughter, Alessa. Alessa was burned alive 7 years ago, but kept alive by some sort of black magic or something like that. I'm not gonna bother trying to explain the entire thing. The whole cult aspect of the story is a little messy. But essentially, Dahlia needs Harry's daughter to sacrifice in order to summon the god. After the Nowhere level, you'll come to a room confronting Dahlia, who's performing the ritual to transform Alessa and Cheryl into a god.
Dahlia.
Well, to think you'd make it this far.
Harry watches as Dahlia summons a golden being called the Incubator. Depending on whether or not you did 2 side quests in the game, this cutscene will actually play out differently and will have you fight one of 2 bosses. First, there's the Sybil side quest. You need to find a plastic bottle in the hospital and then fill it with a red liquid called a Glauphidus. There's a point in the game where Sybil gets possessed and you have to fight her. Instead of killing her, use the red liquid on her in order to save her. If you did the side quest before entering the room, Sybil will show up trying to stop Dahlia before Harry gets a chance to get there. Secondly, there's the Kaufman side quest. This one involves finding him in a bar and then finding his flask of a Glauphidus.
Give me that.
If you did this side quest, Kaufman will enter the room and then throw his flask at the Incubator, stopping the transformation. If you didn't do the Kaufman side quest, you'll just end up fighting the Incubator and you'll get one of 2 bad endings. If you did do it, you'll fight the true final boss, the Incubus, and get one of 2 good endings. As you fight the Incubus, you'll be treated to possibly one of the most terrifying tracks you'll ever hear in a video game. This song is called My Heaven, and believe it or not, it was created by distorting the sound of a dentist drill. Now that's creative. Eat shit, escalating violins. Upon beating the game, you'll unlock a new Fear save file, which will allow you to play the game again, but with certain unlockables based on the endings you got, like the chainsaw, rock drill, and katana. I guess you could think of it as a New Game Plus mode.
So in the end, is Silent Hill a good game? Absolutely. It's a little rocky here and there, and it definitely shows some signs of age in the control scheme, but the game mechanics and the sound design hold up all too well, and it went on to pave the way for one of the greatest horror franchises of all time. The original Silent Hill is the holy grail of all horror games. It shows you how a horror game should be designed, and it's a crying shame that modern game developers fail to carry that torch. It's a little bit on the short side if you know what to do, but it has great replay value. You can get it on the PlayStation Store for only $6, and it's well worth it. This game has such a good basis. All it really needs is some tweaks on the controls, maybe a little better story, some more puzzles couldn't hurt either, and definitely more buildings to explore too. If only there was a sequel to the game that accomplished all that.
Hey guys, and thank you so much for watching this episode of Nitro Rad. I'd really appreciate it if you could do me a favor and click that like button if you enjoyed the video, and if you want to see more Nitro Rad videos in the future, be sure to subscribe. If you think this video is really good and you'd like to show some of your friends, by all means do that. Share it on Facebook. I'd really appreciate the exposure. I'm doing a Silent Hill marathon for this Halloween, so every week in October I'll be getting out 1 new episode on every Silent Hill game. I'm covering 1 through 4, so I hope you guys will stick around and watch the other 3 videos. However, if this is after Halloween and the new episode of Nitro Rad is out and you want to see that right now, you can click right here and watch that. But until then, this link isn't going to work. So I'll see you guys next week, and as always, take care.
Silent Hill. Wow.